So we're going to be talking about making faith a lifetime avoider. Faith isn't something you have or you don't have, and if you've got it forever. It's something that you actually have to keep working on every single day. And God in His wisdom gives us so many opportunities to start again, because it's so easy to lose one's faith. He sends us challenges, and it's very easy to lose one's faith. So it's a lifetime avoider. So it's important to have a realistic view. Often people think they see a frum person or a spiritual person, I think, oh, they have it easy, I struggle. It's not true. Everybody struggles, and it's a daily avoider. So Rabbi Bachya ben Yosef ibn Paquda, I can't pronounce it, even Paquda, he was an 11th century scholar, and he provides guidelines for us to check the level of our trust in God. So that's the other thing. We've had great scholars who've spoken about faith, and books are written about it. So he says, one who trusts Hashem, number one, accepts God's judgments in everything, thanks Him for both good and evil, and does not get angry when things do not go his way. And this is a huge thing, to actually understand that we need to thank for good and evil. Even what seems to be evil is good, even though we can't see it. And to strive to reach a level that, and you can maybe start with little things, that if you lose a few coins, you say it's a kapora, and you say, where was I reading at the Shabbos? They were talking about, there was some rabbi who was very happy when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. And he said it was good that Hashem took out His temper on rocks and stones, on the building, and not on us. So there's a reframe where you see the good in things and you thank Hashem. Rather, it was the building of the Beis HaMikdash, then you destroyed the Jewish people. And that's a big one. So to reach a level that when good things happen, it's good, and when not such good things happen, it's also good. Secondly, one who trusts is tranquil because he knows that God decrees everything for his good in this world and the world hereafter. One who does not trust is always anxious, wanting always to increase his possessions and hoard what he has. So when you trust, you know that everything is good in both worlds. And there isn't an anxiety about what's going to happen. Am I going to have a house? Am I going to have money? Whatever you're worrying about at the moment. Are my kids going to be good? Am I going to, it's just about knowing that it's going to be okay. You trust it's going to be okay, whatever okay looks like. Okay doesn't always look good. It's more a sense that it's part of a very, very big plan. And we are part of a much, much bigger plan than we're even aware of. What we're going through now in Israel is part of a much bigger plan that started thousands of years ago. This is what's relevant to us now. But if you think about, to me, this Tisha B'Av feels so real with what's going on in Israel. We're in the 9 days and really big, dramatic, scary things are happening, but it's part of a much bigger plan and a much bigger destiny. So it's about trusting that there is a plan. That's what trust is, and the plan is good, even though the individual events feel painful, feels bitter, but not bad. A person who trusts knows that profit and loss are God's will. So no one can make you lose money, and it's not your clever idea that makes money. It's up to Hashem whether you have money or not, and you can make money or you can lose money. And I was just reading Hayom Yom a few days ago, and it's nothing new, but this idea that you cannot earn 1 cent more than you're meant to have. So if you lose some money, it's not because you weren't meant to lose it. It's about accepting it. It's all part of Hashem's will. Now, one who trusts in God gives away anything beyond what he needs for his maintenance and does so with a spirit of generosity. One who does not trust never feels that he has enough and is therefore miserly. So this is really important. Take what you need and really let go of what you don't need. And right now, again, I heard many years ago, I can't remember which war, it was the 67 or the 73. I've lived through a few wars at this stage of my life. Not like this, right? But I have. But I remember, I can't remember who, but a woman standing up from the UIA or something in Johannesburg, and I'll never forget, she stood up and she said, "Give until it hurts." She said, it's easy to just give $10 or don't. Your money is needed, give until it hurts. And I always remember her saying that. It was like passionate. And we're in that situation now. We need to give until it hurts. And we need to know that what can we do without? What if we got that our basic needs are taken care of? Our priorities now are our brothers and sisters in Israel. So we don't need more. Another thing that I actually learned this week, which is really interesting, I'm a little bit interested in laning now that I have a grandson who is a Balkore. Not that I know very much. I hear little snippets and it gives me like an insight. So I know about Shelchelis now 4 times in the Torah. And this week I learned about another one. So apparently in this week's Parsha that we've just had in Parshas Chazon, there is a sentence that is split in 2, and it only happens 3 times in the whole of Torah. So then I can quickly call Shlomo and say I learned something about the Torah and how does it affect the laning. But what was really interesting is there were 2 main points. The one Rabbi Ruskin said, which I'll just share anyway because I thought it was interesting. They're talking about the Jews are told there's Seir and there is Midian. And they are told, Moab. They are told that they should not fight Seir, they should leave them alone, but they can fight with Moab. And one of the interpretations is that Seir comes from Esav, and Esav did one mitzvah exceptionally well, and that was Kibud Av. And Moab, when she named that baby that came out of incest, Moab humiliated her father. So it's a break between Esav knew how to honor his father, but I don't know which daughter it was that actually did the opposite, humiliated the father. So it's a clear thing, you don't put the 2 together, that actually is a real difference in how you behave in terms of parents. But the other thing that he was talking about, and then I read more about it on Shabbos as well, is that, and I can't tell you which words it relates to, but talking about right now we value money over Torah wisdom. We value secular wisdom over Torah wisdom. When Mashiach comes, we're going to know to value Torah wisdom over secular wisdom. But the break in the middle is saying we shouldn't confuse the 2. We shouldn't think that secular wisdom is wisdom. They are 2 very different things. And unfortunately, we idealize secular wisdom too much. And we have to know that real wisdom is Torah wisdom. I was actually talking to Rabbi Chaitan the other night, and we were talking about exactly that. He was saying how sometimes when the kids get to HSC, they want to drop some of their Limudei Kodesh because they want to really do well in HSC. And he was saying that he explains to them that it's good for you to learn. It's good for your brain to learn other things as well. It doesn't detract. So I was a bit chuffed because I could tell him a story that I learned many years ago. I think it's told in the name of the Chazon Ish, where there was I think it was the Chazon Ish, but there was a great Godel who lived in Europe who was an absolute genius in maths. And there was a professor at some university who couldn't solve a particular problem. And he was told that this great rabbi is good at maths. So he went to see him and he showed the problem, and the rabbi spent however much time, not too long, and he worked out the problem. And this professor is blown away and he says, "This is amazing. Did you go to which university?" He said, "Never been to university, didn't really go to a proper school. I went to Cheder." He said, "No, how could you know math?" He said, "I want to tell you a story." So in the old days, you would go to a shop, and if you bought something, they would wrap it in brown paper and string. So one day somebody comes up and he says to the shop owner, "I'd like some brown paper and string." So he says, "Sure," and he gives it to him, and he says, $10. So the guy said, No. I saw the person before you gave him the paper and string for free." He said, "Yes, because he bought a garment. So when you buy something here, the paper, the brown paper and the string is free. But if you don't buy anything, then you have to pay for the string and the paper." He said, "It's the same thing. I learned Torah all my life. So things like maths comes free. You learn Torah, it's part of the deal. But if you don't learn the real thing, then you have to go and work for it." Wow. So Rabbi Chaitan didn't know the story. I was very chuffed that I had a story to tell him. because it's an idea that if people realize it doesn't take away from your secular studies, the real wisdom is in Torah. There's maths in Torah, there's geography in Torah, it's all there. And people like even the Rebbe, he could learn languages and everything. He didn't have to be in university because his brain, all these great people, their brains are so refined and honed that when they learn the secular stuff, it's easy because they know how to learn. Even lawyers, there have been stories about great lawyers who when they've learned Gemara, said, I wish I'd learned Gemara before. Like, once you learn Gemara, you go into law, it's easy. It's like the brown paper, it just comes with the package. So really, really important to understand that secular knowledge is lovely, but actually, and as we can see what's going on in university, it's not the real thing. It can be totally corrupted. Do the real thing, encourage your kids to do the real thing, and the other stuff will come and will be as an additional, rather than the other way around, that this is primary and Torah education is secondary, if you can fit it in. It's the wrong way around. The other thing I was saying to him is that it's even when I work with people with anxiety, even if you study maths or whatever you're doing, you need to use different parts of your brain. Just like your body, if you go to a gym, you need a full body workout. It's not good just to work on your biceps. You've got to work on all your body, right? And then you can use those as well, but you want a strong body. And it's the same thing. You've got different parts of your brain and different ways that it thinks. And so it's really beneficial to do all those other things. I just want to share what I heard Rabbi Latham say last night because it was quite interesting. He was talking about, he's been tapping into, I can't remember which rabbi, and when, anyway, some war before when some famous rabbi gave different tips, and he's been doing it in tips. But what he was talking about last night was, we talk a lot, and I always do this every year, when it comes around Tisha B'Av, we talk about sinas chinam and avas chinam, to learn to just love with no reason and to not talk Lashon Hara, and that's really true. And that's what destroyed the second Beis HaMikdash. But what he actually said is, in his opinion, what we have to focus on Erev this Tisha B'Av is not that, it's what destroyed the first temple. And he said, what was that? He said idolatry and immorality. We have idolatry that we worship money. A rich person walks in, they can be the biggest Rosha, we think they're amazing. We worship all the wrong things. We push our kids to get a certain education. Why? So they can make money. We don't say so they'll become a better person. I hear people all the time, go into finance, that's where the money is. That's how people are choosing careers. Gone are the days you go, become a teacher or become a nurse or do because it's a good career or it's a calling. It becomes, that's where the money is. We worship money. But the second thing he said was, he was talking about immorality, and he said that we live in an age, well, if you think about the pride marches, he said pride in that is not okay. It's one thing we can have sympathy or we can be okay with people having different sexuality. That's a different thing. And we should never discriminate or be, hurt anybody who's not like us. But to have pride in it, to bring it out in a way like it's wonderful and it's fantastic and everything goes. And he said that is not Jewish. That is why the first temple was destroyed. And it really struck me, and I thought it's so true. Even now, Israel, what do you hear, secular people saying? And it's true. In one way, it's something to be proud of. We are the only democracy in the Middle East. And I've heard even Rabbi Manis Friedman say, so what? Like, that's not what we're meant to be representing. We're the best democracy in the Middle East. But what else do they say? If you go to Gaza and you're gay, they'll throw you off the roof. But we have the best pride march in Jerusalem. They have it. It's not okay, actually. You want to be gay. But to have a pride march in Jerusalem, he says that's what we tapped into. So I thought I would just share it with you because I thought that's really important to think about. It's actually we living these things, and we need to work on being better at what we idealize and what our moral views are and what we convey to our kids. And again, I'll repeat, it's not about hurting anybody who is not heterosexual. That's a different thing altogether. But this pride in it, even Jordan Peterson, for what it's worth, he talks about from a Christian point of view, it's not a Jewish way really, but he says the 7 cardinal sins, I heard him once say, and pride is one of them. So he said the fact they even call it the gay pride, he says, is terrible. But Rabbi Lappin doesn't say the same thing. We don't talk about it in that way because pride has a place. But we shouldn't actually be flaunting it in this way. It shouldn't be okay in the middle of Jerusalem or in Israel.
They also, they've got a Jewish float.
Yeah.
When they have the Mardi Gras.
That's right.
Jewish.
That's right. They do have a Jewish float with big, yeah. Yeah, no one flaunts their sexuality, the way, when the Pride March just started in the 70s, like everyone was going, no one actually really cared. No one really used to think about it too much. Maybe, so you'd hear someone call someone a name. But actually it wasn't a big deal. Everyone just got on with their lives. And suddenly in the 70s, there were these marches and everyone was going, I'm not going around, I'm proud to be heterosexual and wearing my lingerie in the street. People, we didn't need to do that. What is this pride? And that's the problem with it. Anyway, interesting. Let's go back to Rabbi Bachia.
It's the same thing with when people find out the gender of their child. Do you announce it or do you just say
Yeah. Well, in general, it's a very, very interesting point because there is a general principle that Jews should be tamimistic. You should be modest and you should be simple in the sense of don't make big announcements about anything. And, we talk about how when the Torah was given the first time, it was major, the biggest fireworks and, New Year's Eve and bugles and everybody, and it didn't last. And the second time it was given, people don't even know it was given on Yom Kippur. It's actually a fact that a lot of people don't know that it's linked to Yom Kippur. It was done quietly and it still exists. So Jew is meant to be tamimistic. Whatever it is, I'm not going to comment on that in particular, but in general in your life, if something really wonderful happens, share it with some people, but don't have a massive thing. And to think about, good things and quiet things and brochas, how you can share it without making too much of a fanfare. A Jew is meant to be more modest in, even in how we dress or whatever. You can dress in really good clothes, but it shouldn't be in a way, or jewelry that is like ostentatious that people are going to look. You can look good, but there's a level. We all know what that level is, hard to put into words. There's a level at which you go, that's a little bit grob.
I'm just clarifying, it's not that you should say, I look too good, I shouldn't wear this.
No.
No, that's not it. It's
If
more
you go
just
outside and everyone looking at you, like,
You know what it is? It's hard to put into words. You should dress beautifully. I think, and you should have a beautiful home. But there's a level at when it's over the top ostentation. I suppose if someone is dripping with diamonds and as you walking along, it's clinking along. You know what I mean? There's a level at which you go.
It's not even the thing; it's how it's done. We were talking about it in the holidays, and I was thinking about it afterwards. Most of our school went on holiday somewhere overseas, but half the families were spoken about and half weren't, and it was exactly the same thing. But it was the way it was done, the way it was advertised, the way it was spoken about.
Yeah.
How the kids came back. It's the same thing, but it's how you do it. Like, it's not even like the thing itself. I mean, we all have big parties, bar mitzvahs, and some are something and some are something else. It's not the thing, it's how.
Yeah, and there are two things. The one is for yourself, as we need to be tamimistic, but also to be sensitive to other people. These are all important. Okay, what else does he say, Rabbi Bachia? He says, one who believes, one who trusts, does nothing to compromise his religious principles, for that is his greatest priority. One who does not trust will do anything, good or bad, to get what he wants, because his interest is only in the present, not in the hereafter. So that's the thing. When you trust, you won't work on Shabbos no matter what, because you know it'll come from Hashem. When you don't trust, you shmuchel. You might start working on Shabbos, or you'll do something a bit under the table, or you'll, because you start compromising because you don't really trust it all comes from Hashem. And it's difficult because often people, I saw it, in the Baal Tshuva years, people who started keeping Shabbos, things went wrong for them. And in fact, there's a Russian family here that I once met. They were having this discussion actually with the Ullmans. Apparently they were very, very, very wealthy, and the minute they started keeping Shabbos, they lost all their money. It's not that uncommon. So it's hard to do the right thing. You think, I'm going to keep Shabbos, and then doesn't work like that. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't. But often it becomes very hard to trust that this comes from Hashem and I'm still going to do the right thing. With our kids, whatever it is, if you put them in the right school that you believe in, and then you hear other schools might be better, but you stick to your principles for those reasons. It's all those things. And actually, I'll just say something else that's happened since October the 7th, is that, certainly the post-Holocaust generation were very strict about, they used to talk about not trusting people and sticking to your principles. It was much harder. When people married out, it was sort of more shemzach, and then over the years it got more and more, you can mix it's back to Purim, let's assimilate, doesn't really matter, all those things. You compromise your principles because you think it's going to get you further in life. But at the end of the day, Torah is the tree of life, and what gets us further in life is sticking to our principles and to have the faith that we need to have. That very famous story of Rabbi Akiva, when he was being persecuted for teaching Torah, and one of the Romans said to him, your life's in danger. You shouldn't be teaching Torah anymore. And he said, there's a story about the fish. The fish is in the water, right, and there's a fox on the side of the river, and the fox says to the fish, you're not safe in there, there could be a crocodile, there could be a snake, something's going to catch you. Why don't you come onto land and you'll be much safer here with me? And the fish says, don't be ridiculous. Water is my medium. This is where I thrive. If I'm not safe in my true medium, how am I going to be safe on land which isn't my medium? And that's what Rabbi Akiva said. Torah is my medium, is the Jews' medium. We're not safer without it. It's ridiculous. This is how we live and how we thrive. So even now we have to know Torah is our medium. We need to be learning Torah as much as possible, especially now with what's going on in Israel. We need to give tzedakah, learn more Torah, say more Tehillim. That's our medium. That's what's going to keep us safe. And doing other things is not what's going to keep us safe. Giving in or whatever people have tried to do. So one who trusts is beloved by all classes of people. Others trust him because they know he will not harm them. And he who trusts feels safe because he recognizes that it's not in any creature's power or control to benefit him or cause him injury. That is in Hashem's hands. One who does not trust blames others if he's frustrated and dissatisfied. So there's a few things. The first one, it's very true. Someone who's trust, generally most people like them because you don't feel that person's not competitive or putting you down. They just bring this aura of abundance around with them. But also that person trusts because they know no one's got any power over them. It's like what Yosef said to his brothers. You did not send me. What did he say? I was sent. You did not, there's a word he used, but I was sent. Hashem took me here. You didn't. That idea that no one can do anything to us. If we're in this position, Hashem has put us in here. So actually this week there was a lot about, because of Tisha B'Av and the war, there was a lot about this in the things I read. So one, again, famous story, famous rabbi, who was talking about the Germans, Yamach Shemo, in the Second World War. The Germans this, Germans that, and eventually the rabbi said, the Germans, Hashem has put us here. Doesn't mean they're not Rishoyim, but at the end of the day, you're giving them too much credit. Hashem is actually, and that's a hard one, even as I'm saying it, I feel a bit, but really at the end of the day, Hashem has put us into this position. No one else has the power, and then that's why davening to Hashem, if he wants to, he can change it like this. Just like Yosef, overnight he became the viceroy. He can change it like this, Hashem. So that's the thing, no one has any control over us.
Thing. It's Hashem who puts it in, but it's Hashem who give you the Yeshua also.
That's right.
It's the same source.
That's right.
What's the hardest thing? I think.
Yeah.
But with that, it's like with Mitzrayim. Hashem said they're going to be stranger in a foreign land. The Egyptians decided that it will be. So the person still have the choice to be that person, to do that.
Correct, and they will be answerable for, that's right. So that's why we have to be careful. We can't say, look, I'm sure Hashem decreed for that person to be poor, so I'm not giving them tzedakah because that's what they're meant to have. You still will be held accountable. But the thing is that when something's happening to you, it's actually very freeing when you take away the power and they're not doing it to me, Hashem has put me in the situation. And that's where I've got to do my rectification. Sometimes you realize, that you have to, one of the stories they told, one of the things I read was talking about these girls in a class that actually none of them were getting engaged. And they got together and they realized that, perhaps they had been rude to some of the teachers. So they went around as a group to all the teachers to ask for forgiveness. And then very shortly after that, they started getting engaged. So it's an interesting thing of looking at what have I done, what can I do better, because Hashem has put me in here for a reason. The other thing that is where people, and this has been my experience, I've been very lucky, that people respect you when you stick to your values. So one of the stories I read, the Shabbos, he was talking about someone who was going to a business meeting during the 9 days, and he decided to shave because he thought, he's going to these wealthy people, and if he goes with a scraggly beard, it won't look nice. So he shaved. So when he went, he was about to sign this big contract, and this guy turns around and he says, "Aren't you an Orthodox Jew?" And he said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Isn't this a time where people don't shave?" For some reason, this guy knew. And he said, "Yeah, well, and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going ahead with the contract with you, because if you can't stick to your principles, I don't think I can trust you." So you don't know who knows what, not that you do it for that reason, but we have to believe that not shaving or whatever it is we're doing is not, if they don't sign, it's not because we didn't shave. It's because Hashem didn't want it to be. But
There's the opposite story where
yeah.
someone
Rothschild.
and they're like, why would you? They challenge them, and then the Jew tells
Correct.
them why, and they're like, okay, well, if you follow through with that, then
That's exactly
you're
right.
my person.
Correct.
You're my man.
Exactly the same.
It's the
100%.
same.
Yeah, people respect you for having your values. 100%.
Rothschild, when he came to him on Shabbos,
Yeah,
his guy
yeah.
tried to convince him to sign because it was bad, and he said, "I can't." I said, "On Shabbos I'm not working." And then he came back, and once Shabbos he came back with his friend, and they were very happy that he stood on his principle, because they actually what do you call it? They get debate between themselves. They basically said, "If you're right, I'll pay you, and if you're wrong, I will need to pay you." And he said, "You saved me lots of money because you stood on. I knew that you would stand on your principles, so he had to pay me."
Yeah.
You wouldn't get
People respect you when you stick
Yeah,
by your
exactly,
principles. Even if they don't
exactly.
agree with your principles, people respect people who are consistent and ethical and stick by their principles. So we know what the wisdom is. We just do the right thing one step at a time, put your feet forward. We don't do it for the result, but these are just examples. People who trust do not feel sad when a request is not granted or if something loved is lost. And this is a huge thing. You want something and you don't get it, you don't feel sad. You accept that it comes from Hashem. He does not grieve or rejoice about his future. He's fully present in this moment, which is all he has. And this is one of the biggest lessons. I mean, it's a big part of treating anxiety. All you have is this present moment. And so the less you think about the future, except to plan, obviously you have to plan certain things, but it's a really important thing to just live in the moment, to ask yourself, have I got whatever I need right now? Trust that Hashem has given it to me now, he'll give it to me in the future as well. But the more we present focus, the less anxious we will be. I heard a lovely thing that was talking about, not lovely, but people, because anxiety is about the future, you worry that you're not going to cope with something. But the reality is when Hashem does send you a Nasoy and he gives you the strength to cope with it. So you're worrying about something when you're in a state without the strength. So you can't imagine that you could do it. But when you're in it, you can do it. And we do it. So that's why worry as well. It just drains you. You don't know how you're going to be in that situation. People rise to the most incredible occasions when they have to. It's incredible what people can do. But you don't think you can do it. And we shouldn't have to do it. But when you do, you do. Again, looking at the war now, people are saying that no one knew how the young people would be. You know, this new generation, how Israel's going to fall apart, the IDF's going to fall apart because they're all on social media, but they have all risen to the occasion. I'm sure most, 99% from what I understand, have just known and done the right thing. A year ago, if you'd said to them, are you going to go and fight? No, I'm not doing it. You do it in the moment, and Hashem probably sends you the messages as well and gives you the strength, you do it. So worrying about how will I cope or how will that happen, you can look back and go, I did cope in the past, so I'm going to trust I'll cope again. But the idea is to really understand this moment is all we have. And that's why when we're going through a war like this, when so much that we thought we knew is upside down, first we had COVID and now we've got this, to really realize what a waste of energy to think this is how life is, and if it doesn't be like this, what am I going to do? We actually don't know from day to day. You can have an October the 6th, and you can have an October the 7th, and then you can have October the 8th at the Opera House. Who would have known? You do not know. So we spend so much time, who's going to marry my kids and where we're going to live. Just, you can plan that much, and all the rest, you do not know literally, but not in a scared way of, oh, how's it going to be? We're living through this now, and we know what we have to do. That's all we can do. And focus putting your energy in getting through today in the best possible way. And what will help you is Torah, getting into the medium of the water. Just delve into Torah, it'll strengthen you. There's nothing else. And do mitzvahs. That's what we have to do. That's all we have to do in this world. And all the rest, who knows what tomorrow will bring. Mashiach will be here tomorrow.
Amen.
No reason that he's not going to be here. So all that worry and all that concern, it's just a waste of time. But that's for me one of the biggest learnings here. I know the pandemic, everyone kept saying it's unprecedented, and I didn't like the word then. But the idea that even Josh Frydenberg was saying, October the 7th changed the world for every single Jew. Our world has changed. And that's the thing, like this, our world changes. And so to put too much story, this is how the world should be, and this is how it's going to be, and this is therefore I can predict, it's all a waste of time. And to really know it can change, but what keeps us, as I said about that man earlier, knowing what we have to do on a day-to-day basis, wake up, say Modiani, to our brachas, whatever we have to do, that's what you focus on for today in the best possible way. And that's actually the way to live and to have trust that this is how today is meant to be, and it'll be okay. A person who trusts is anxious and mourns over his shortcomings in the fulfillment of his duties towards God and does as much as he can to do more. He tries to improve throughout his entire lifetime.
Did you say the person who trusts is anxious?
Yeah, anxious over his shortcomings. So everything has a place, even anxiety. We should feel worried that our shortcomings are tripping us up.
What shortcoming?
Our mistakes, our limitations. That's what we should be concerned about. We're not being the best we can be. This is the story of Zusha. He's not worried. He's not going to be asked, is he Moshe? Why was he not Moshe? It's going to be asked, were you the best Zusha you can be? That's the anxiety. Am I being the best Renee I can be? In this situation, am I being the best that I can be? That's what they're referring to. So that's where anxiety fits in. Maybe I could be doing better. And the Rebbe always used to tell you can do better, right? One who does not trust is in a constant state of mourning over the continuance of mishaps that befall him in the world. I'm sorry, I know it's all very old English. It's all from Duties of the Heart. I wonder what year that's written. The continuance of mishaps that befall him in this world, the things he loves are taken away from him and his wishes remain unfulfilled. So when you don't trust, you're always thinking life isn't going the way I want. And there's always things we don't have, right? We don't have the family we want, we don't have the bank balance we want, we don't have the country we want, we don't have the house, it never ends. And so therefore, you always feel frustrated. But when you go, this is the day Hashem has given me, and it's good, because we trust that everything's good, now I know what I have to do in this day. And this is really important. It's a very, very different way of looking at the world. It's something that Manis Friedman talks a lot about. We're in this world because Hashem needs us. We're not in this world to make money, and we're not in this world to get 5 degrees and be a career success. Those are just incidental. We're in this world to do mitzvahs because we are partners in creation with Hashem. He needs us to fulfill his journey of creation. So we are very, very valuable. We are needed every single minute and every opportunity we have. And that's what we need to be focusing on. So this is the day God has given me. Not I want a different day or I want a different life. This is the day I've got. I know what I have to do because these are the mitzvahs I have to do. And when I do that, then Hashem and I are partners in creation. I'm doing a very, very important function. And it's an incredible thing when you realize that, because we spend so much of our time, our wishes aren't fulfilled. We want it like this, and we want people to treat us like that, and we want to be able to have that, and we don't have. We don't have what we have. And that's one of the things that, I think so much about, so many things about Israel, but they keep talking about the 80,000 people who are displaced. And, when I climb into bed at night, I say, thank God I've got a home and I'm not displaced. Like, it just puts your life into perspective. But the thing is that the idea is wherever we are put, that is where we're meant to be. And that is where we have the opportunity to do our mitzvah. It's not the other way around. I'll do my mitzvah when I have what I want, or I've got to have what I want in order to believe in Hashem. It's completely the other way around. It's a given. Hashem has created me. And this is where I'm meant to be, and this is my purpose to fulfill it. And all the rest are bonuses. That's why we can always feel grateful. Hashem doesn't owe us anything. As Rabbi Friedman says, he gave us life. He never promised us anything. When we demand this and this, he says, like, you go to a beautiful lunch and then you're upset because your dessert isn't there. There's only 3 other types of dessert, but they didn't have that one vanilla ice cream you like. That's what we like. So to really appreciate.
Actually, I went all the way to Melbourne for my 40th.
Yeah.
Organised the kids, just me and my husband. Went to, what's that place? Kimberley. Just wanted the curry chicken. The Knappers ordered the curry chicken. They said, we have everything on the menu tonight. Except for the curry
That's right.
chicken.
That's right.
Oh.
That's exactly right. And that is a good moshel for love. That often we want that one thing and it's the one thing we don't have. But to realize the gift of having life is really, really important. And that when you lose it, this is why great rabbis were upset when they were dying. They weren't upset about dying. They were upset about losing the opportunity to do mitzvahs. It's a gift that we were able to do that. And it's really, really huge. And we have the power and the capacity right now to effect a change in the world. We have the power by doing a mitzvah to affect the war in Israel. We know the Rambam says the world is in a balance and every mitzvah you do can tip the balance. But I'll finish with a story that I read this week. And again, I can't remember. I think it was a Belzer Rebbe. And I'm sorry, I can never remember the specific names of the rabbis. But anyway, this Belzer Rebbe was at a different shul. He was maybe traveling. And during davening, he made a comment that when a Jew talks Lashon Hora about a fellow Jew, a non-Jew can stab a Jew. He just came out with that comment. When it came to the Kiddush, he refused to eat Kiddush at the shul and he left. And then the shul discovered that down the road, a Jew had stabbed a Jew. And he was saying that's the power of Lashon Hora. When you talk Lashon Hora here, you can affect something there. So the opposite is, I always say, when I became frum, I was told if you eat kosher, you can soften Nasser's heart. Now we want to suffer, I don't know all these people's names, all the people that are from Hamas and Hezbollah, but when we do the right thing, you have the power to soften their heart. You have the power to do that. Don't underestimate. So don't feel I'm not there or I can't do anything. But this was a very confronting story, can you imagine? But that's the power of Lashon Hora. You destroying a fellow Jew, you give the potential for destruction out there. And as Jews, the Tanya talks about it, that when we behave correctly, we lift the whole world up. When we don't behave correctly, it affects the whole world. And this is what Rudy, what's his surname? Richmond, yeah. He was saying in one of his talks on a podcast, he was saying when the non-Jews are so angry with us, there's actually an element of truth in it because we're not doing our job properly. We may not literally be managing the banks and controlling the media, and we may not literally be the wealthiest people, but actually on a deep level, we do run the world, because the power of our Torah and mitzvahs determines how the world will be. It's a very scary thought. So we have an equal responsibility, everybody in this room and everyone, to contribute to the well-being of the world. It's not just our personal mitzvahs. We actually are part of it. And I thought it's a very deep idea that they're furious with us because we actually haven't been doing our job that well. I'm going to end there and then just take a few questions. But to really realize, not to feel scared by it, but in our own little Dalit Amos, to think about how we can immerse ourselves and how we can improve our world, but with that we will be improving the world at large. And please God, we won't even have a Tisha B'Av, and really Mashiach is going to be here today.